Good morning, everyone. I'd like to open this Polk County Board of Commissioners. It's September 13th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All commissioners are present. There's extra agendas on the back table by the door. And first up, we're looking for approval of minutes of September 6th.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Motion passes. Vietnam War Memorial Funding, Mr. Greg Hansen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I believe all of you received an email talking about the Vietnam War Memorial Fund. They're looking for donations to help support this project. To date, at least in the email, 14 counties have provided donations. The donation amounts have ranged from $10,000, which is the high, down to $500. And the big question before the county is if you want to contribute to this project, and if so, in what amount?
Yes, 10,000. Opening bid.
Going once. No. Jeremy?
I wasn't expecting the highest bid, but I'll second it. I'll second that bold bid. I support it, so why not?
And you know, I support this too. And I was thinking of a number, but not that one, but I'm all in. We owe our veterans so much. So.
I would, if you'd indulge me a moment too, I can tell you that I've had conversations with Steve Bates for several years on this project. And I've said, I'm listening, I'm interested. I don't think you're ready yet. And when he first really started, at least from the counties, I'll be more interested when I see what kind of momentum you get. They still have a long way to go. Long way to go. But I think that it is absolutely essential that we stand up here with fellow counties and do what we can. And there's not a better time financially for us than now to make that contribution. So I think that Steve Bates and all of the folks that have been engaging in this are truly dedicated to seeing this through. And this is not a flash. It will happen. It's just a matter of getting more time. And it's like so many other fundraising things. If we can help build that momentum, and I think our citizens generally would support us supporting this, that we'll get them more momentum to gain the dollars that they need.
I always felt our Vietnam veterans always had such a short end of the stick. The time they came home is very similar to what we're in right now. I don't think they ever got their due respect for what they've earned and what they gave up. So do we need a motion?
That was my motion.
I seconded it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Adante Vineyards Economic Development Presentation. So Karen Saul and Alex Paraskovas.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, thank you so much for letting me make this presentation today in support of our application for an economic development grant. I'm Karen Saul, and my husband Joe and I, Joe Allen, are the owners and managers of Andante. Joe wanted to be here this morning, but he was called down to California to help our grandkids. So I'm sorry you won't be able to meet him today. We purchased the land for our vineyard in early 2010. At that time, it was enrolled in one of the USDA Conservation Reserve programs because it's a hilly site with very shallow soil, and it couldn't be farmed for grass seed or other conventional row crops. However, that's great for grapes. Grapes love hillsides and they love soil that's not too fertile, especially for making premium wine grapes. So we planted the first vines in 2011, and the rest of my presentation will tell you what we've been up to since that happened. So our guests at Andante are seeking an experience that includes wine, but it's not just all about wine tasting. They drive 3 miles of gravel roads to reach us. They have to leave the paved highway and come into agricultural country. They love being where we are because they're with the vines. They're overlooking miles of gorgeous farmland that has beautiful barns, little dots of oak woodland. And they know that we farm our own grapes. We're only using our own fruit to this point. We make our wines under the same roof where we serve them. And we do it in small production lots. And that lets us allow the wines to really express their origin. We're not making formula wines. Every vintage is a little different depending on the weather and the other conditions. And it's all very genuine. And in a world that a lot of us think is a little too busy and a little too contrived at times, we have peace and authenticity to offer. Our site is that not working?
It's not. There we go. There's two.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. Our guests find us on 42 acres of rolling hills that's on marine sedimentary soils. And specifically, we have an unusual soil. It's called Chahopum, which in the native people's language meant land where beaver are plenty. Our neighbor to the south is Van Duzer Vineyard, which you're probably familiar with because they've been here since the 1980s. Jim and Candace Fowler live to our west, but otherwise we're surrounded by grass fields, and a lot of those are farmed by Larry Berger. It turns out his dad and his uncle were my dad's best friends growing up in Salem. And he's been a great neighbor for 12 years, proving that vineyards and grass fields can peacefully coexist. Some people doubt that. Larry and I are here to prove it. Joe and I now live at the end of Morris Road. The gravel lane literally stops at our place. The 45th parallel runs through the backyard. I can look out my windows and see the vineyard and the winery, and I can walk to work. I think we might have missed one slide here, but I'm just gonna double check. Maybe not. We are founded on 17 acres. That includes the vines, the narrow alleys between the blocks, and the equipment margins for turning the tractors and the mowers. This is actually the map that was prepared by a surveyor that we used in support of our application for a winery permit in 2017. So the law says you need to have at least 15 acres, and we were able to establish that we met that and then some. All of our vines are planted with grafted rootstock. That protects them from a disease called phylloxera that you may have heard of. It's a deadly vine disease that almost wiped out the French wine vineyards back in the 19th century. About half of the vineyard is Pinot Noir, and we have 7 different clones. And the mixture of clones is part of what makes wines really wonderful. Deciding how you're going to blend them. They all bring different characteristics to a bottle of wine. We also have 4 clones of Chardonnay. And in addition to those, we have Sauvignon Blanc, Aligoté, Gamay, and Marsanne. And those last 4 are pretty rare in the Willamette Valley. We planted them because they do really well on our site, and it gives us an opportunity to stand out from other people that have the more common grape varieties. So before we started planting in 2011, we had to build a driveway from Morris Road up to the top of the hill. It was truly just a wild site. We had to bushwhack up to the top of the hill before that. And that same year, we installed a drip irrigation system for the vineyard. We got our surface water permit from Oregon Water Resources. And we have a pond, which you can see in the diagram up in the northwest corner, that's 2 surface acres, and we can use that to irrigate. Our marine sedimentary soils are very thin, as I mentioned, and our vineyard definitely needs a drink of water in July and early August. We are hoping to plant about 5 more acres in the coming years, and then we'll have pretty much planted out this site. But we think we're going to have plenty of wine that we can make from the grapes that we have here. to meet our needs. And if we needed to, the place that we bought at the end of the road has room to plant as well. So by 2017, we were ready to build a large structure to store equipment and make wine. So we got the winery permit at the end of that year, and we made our first vintage on site in 2018. Before that, we were making our wine from our grapes at other people's places, and that's called custom crush. But now we can offer custom crush services to other people, and they pay us to make their wine, which helps us defray our operating costs. So let me tell you a little bit more about Joe and me. We are both very actively involved in the operation of Andante, although we both came to the industry from different careers. I am a born and raised Salem girl. My parents ran a small business in Salem where the business phone rang in the kitchen. My dad did the heavy labor and my mom did the books at the kitchen table. I know about how family businesses work and how the owners work hard. My grandparents and my aunts and uncles lived out in rural Marion County. So as a kid, I got to play, got to crawl through culverts, get poison oak a lot. Then I started picking berries and beans. Then I moved into the canneries where I did graveyard shift for 6 years, stuffing green beans into cans. And eventually I ended up with a law degree from Willamette University in 1983. But it helped understanding that whole cycle from planting stuff to picking it to processing it. I just hadn't done the sales part yet. That's what I'm doing now. When Joe and I married in 2006, I came home to Salem from Portland, where I had been practicing for 27 years. And now I'm the chief operating officer at Andante. I'm the bookkeeper, like my mom was. I'm the compliance officer. I'm the janitor and the gardener. And I'm the extra help at harvest or even in the kitchen. So I think it's been a very interesting life, all here in the Mid-Valley. This is the best part of it. Joe is a retired ears and throat physician who practiced medicine in 31 years, done at the River Road ENT clinic. And he came to that from being an Air Force doctor. He grew up in the desert of Southern Nevada where he milked the family cow and he hauled hay in the middle of the night because it was 120 degrees there in the summer. So now Joe drives our tractors, our mowers, he masterminds the irrigation system, he repairs the equipment, he troubleshoots the problems that come up on every farm every day. And since he's from many generations of blacksmiths, I think fixing stuff is in his DNA. So for example, this weekend he's down in California and I'm checking out the vineyard and I noticed that there's an irrigation valve that's just gushing. And I call him and I say, what do I do? And he says, tap it. That didn't work. Well, take the top off and poke the little ball valve down, in the course of which I get drenched. And I ended up just turning the system off and waiting for him to come home. So we both work hard at Andante. We love it. We love and appreciate the people that work with us. And we really want to be successful. And so there we go. This is a picture from the top of our hill. You can see the wildlife refuge in the background. I think you can see a little bit of the Flying F Ranch out there. And I mean, this place has just captured our hearts and we've invested all of ourselves and all of our money in it. Let me tell you what we've been doing now. We have a picture here of some of the wine varietals that we offer. We have at least a dozen wine varieties available for sale at this point. We have, we've been winning awards and getting recognition. And we think the wines are beautiful. Construction has been a big part of our life and our budget since 2018. The main winery building, which is in this picture, is a pole barn built by Bryce Roberts Construction. Pole barns don't need any internal posts, as you may know. So it gave us liberty to design the interior space just as we needed. We knew that we wanted to have a tasting room eventually. So we had to figure out how to get the farm equipment out of the east end of the building. So we had Bryce build another pole barn for us down in the northeast corner. I've been up to community development way more times than I can count, and some of them know me on a first name basis now. So then we also built a structure that's not shown here, but it houses two 2 tanks with 10,000 gallons of water in them because water storage was a condition of our winery permit. So the tanks just trickle fill and we draw out of them as needed. So we are right in the heart of Oregon's wine country. And this is a picture of the new AVA with the dot showing where we are. And we're like 15 minutes away from this building. The border of our AVA is Highway 22 on the south end. So in 2019, the federal government officially recognized a new American viticultural area, shorthand is AVA, and ours is named the Van Duzer Corridor AVA. And they recognize AVAs when an area has a distinguishing feature that makes the wine special. Ours is the wind. It blows out of the Pacific Ocean through the Van Duzer Corridor that we all drive through on our way to the beach. And it comes usually in the mid-afternoon and cools down our vines. We call it the Van Duzer Daily. It lets us down sometimes, like when there's smoke here, but for the most part, it is a very reliable phenomenon. And it lets our fruit hang on the vine longer because it cools them off in the afternoon. Vines do not like to be hot. They like to have lots of sun. They like to be warm, but they don't like being hot. Our AVA includes Left Coast Cellars, Van Duzer, Johann, Chateau Bianca, and Andante, and we all have wineries. There are other vineyards and tasting rooms in the AVA, but they don't have wineries. They're still certainly allowed to be part of the AVA though. Unfortunately, just as we were getting the AVA going to market ourselves to the world, the COVID pandemic rolls in and closed down hospitality businesses. So we are just restarting that process, and we have an inaugural event planned with the Independence Hotel in January coming up. I think the AVA is on the rise. I think it will definitely increase tourism to our area. And as you all know, the Viola Amity Hills AVA is a wonderful success. So they've got like a 25-year head start on us, but we'll catch up. So you get to us from either Highway 22 or Highway 99W. And as you know, these are both major tourism routes. 22 takes people out to Lincoln City and the beach. 99W is sort of the Oregon Wine Trail. So you can start in Dundee and you can end up down at, King Estate in Eugene if you want to take the whole route there. The people that use those routes are coming here for lodging, restaurants, golf, biking, hiking, and many of them really enjoy wine. So it's actually good for the whole wine industry to have more wineries that people can visit and draw people down to this part of the valley. Otherwise, they have a tendency to just go to Dundee and not come any farther. We think that we have very intentional tourists that come to us. It's a lot easier to stay on the paved highway, pull into a parking lot, and drink wine in a fancy building in Dundee than it is to come to us. However, people are coming frequently now and they're saying, you are our favorite place. So we're very encouraged by that. And again, it's back to this whole authenticity. We're about farmland. We're the newest tasting room in the AVA. And I'm obviously biased, but I think we're the most beautiful too. We have a lot of lovely amenities like a commercial kitchen where we can make food to pair with our wines. We have beautiful gardens, patio space. We have a new covered patio under construction. That's the main reason I'm here. I'm leading up to that. And we really believe that we have enormous potential. So we're bringing visitors to Polk County for sure. The easiest way for us to tell you about that is to look at our wine club, because we have, now we're getting about 435 visitors or visits per month. Some of those are guests that come back more than once. But we don't necessarily know where all those people are from. We do know where our wine club is from. And our wine club has grown by 400 members in 2 years. We're really impressed by that. 78% of those people live outside of Polk County. So every time they come to see us, they're bringing their dollars here. 30% of those people are from Marion County. 14% are from the Portland area. We think we can start drawing more of them down here as well. They're used to higher prices. 20% of them live outside of the state. And some of those are people that are just traveling through every year because they love the Oregon coast or they have family here. They stop at Andante and see our beautiful wines and our beautiful place and say, oh, we'll just make this an annual stop. So we try to make every single visit a great experience so that people will keep returning and sending their friends and family to us. There you go. Earlier this year, late April, we got our temporary occupancy permit to use the indoor tasting room. The permit's temporary because we have an indoor space that I've got pictures of that will be integrating with a patio that's not finished. And the front door comes off this patio. So the indoor space will seat up to 40 people. It includes a smaller room designated for meetings or private wine tastings. We do not serve people at the bar. They do not stand up and crowd in and belly up to the bar at Andante. We have tables, we have these sofa and chair seating arrangements, and we have some window seats next to the fireplace, which I've got a pretty picture of coming up. We really believe that it's better to have fewer guests who have a great time and leave us with a larger dollar amount than a bunch of people who crowd in and end up actually selling less. Our buildings are sided with Corten steel, so they look rusty. And we wanted the buildings and the interior spaces to fit the landscape around us. We are in farmland. The colors around us are earth tones. We've brought those inside, as you can see. My husband really does know how to play that piano, by the way. And the feeling is peaceful and unhurried. Our name Andante is a music term that means a walking pace tempo. And that's partly because we really are trying to slow down and partly because Joe plays the piano beautifully. We had to have a musical section. So we think what we do allows our guests to take a deep breath, exhale, and relax. And it's part of what I've mentioned here several times. People coming to visit want an experience that includes more than just wine and food. They want to be away from the crowds. They want to be among the vines. They love the big skies and the long vistas that you can see. And a lot of them are fascinated watching the raptors up on the wind currents around us. They even get a kick out of enjoying the rain against the big picture windows while our pretty fireplace is glowing there and keeping us warm. So the indoor space is lovely and it's basically done. We also have a patio on the north side of our building, but it's a summer patio only. Right now there's tables you can see. We're actually going to move the tables over to the new patio when it's done. And this will just be a summertime seating area that has Adirondack chairs from Costco. They're really comfy though, and you can have a glass or a bottle of wine out there. We're not going to have food service out there. So that's a picture of the garden with some of Larry's grass fields there in the background. So I mentioned that we have a commercial kitchen with a hood. And we're really proud of this. It allows us to do food pairings. We're not a restaurant. We don't have a so-called menu, but we can pair like soups and sandwiches, charcuterie. We're hoping to have a food and wine pairing dinner maybe once a month when we get going. The garden that I was showing you earlier was something I designed during COVID when we were in lockdown and Joe was actually in the hospital and I was going crazy and I thought, what am I going to do? So I designed a garden, but it's lovely because it has flowers that we can pick and we decorate our tasting room with them. It has herbs and vegetables and fruit and berries that we can use in our kitchen. And the guests love to walk down to the garden and stroll through it. So here's a picture of some of the foods. We crowded a lot into this. Most people don't order that much all at once. But it's really fun to offer food, and people are coming to us off the beaten path and they want to stay a while. So they appreciate that we have food. Our kitchen staffing is scaled to meet the needs through the week. So right now we have one full-time line cook, works Thursday through Sunday. And we probably need another part-time one soon. We're looking for that person. We have a chef in residence at this point who is an experienced chef that can supervise and plan the menus. Oh, I used the word menu, sorry. Plan the food. It's kind of a joke about menus because we really don't offer one, but what do you call it when you've got a food offering if you don't use the word menu?
Fixed menu.
Yeah. So the chef decides what we need to purchase for the week and make sure that we have cleaning and maintenance protocols so that we'll always pass inspections. So eventually we're going to have a pizza oven. We have a pizza oven planned for the outdoor patio. So our tasting room staff, this is Brandon who's pouring right now. We have a full-time tasting room manager, one full-time server at this point, another server who works about 24 hours a week, Thursday through Sunday, several more who come in and help us on the weekends when we have a busy schedule or somebody needs a day off. And we will definitely be hiring more people as our guest count increases. We're trying to give everybody the right amount of attention. Some people want a lot, some people not so much. I think our staff has a really good way of gauging who wants what and delivering that to them. We also briefly had a concierge this summer. She was a Willamette University student, and those people help us greet the guests, show them to their table, help with checkout, other things like that. So we'd like to replace her when our traffic picks up. Since we farm our own grapes and we make our own wines, we obviously need other helpers as well. So last year we harvested over 45 tons of our own fruit. That makes about 2,800 cases of wine. That's plenty for our traffic at this point. But again, we do expect to be increasing our wine production. This year, we're actually going to have quite a bit less fruit because we were one of the vineyards hurt by that freezing episode in April. We figured out that farming has a lot of risks, and frost and heat domes and smoke are among them. So we have 2 full-time equivalents in the farming operations, another 2 in the winery, and we use some contract labor, mostly at harvest time. We see the need to increase this part of our employment as well as we start to sell more wine. Labor is our biggest expense. Fun pictures of picking, and that's, I'm trying to think, that is dry ice that he was putting in there. We put dry ice on top of the fermenters to keep the fruit flies out. So we provide health, dental, and vision insurance to our employees if they work at least 35 hours a week. And I think I'm going to take that down to 30 hours a week coming next year. It's 100% paid by us. We have a 401k plan, and the lowest minimum wage that we pay anybody is $15 an hour. Okay, so our future priorities, which is where the grant comes in, we need to complete that east side patio. Everything that we have built so far, Joe and I have paid for. The farming equipment, the land, the winemaking equipment, the buildings. We did borrow some money in 2018 when we were creating our wine production space, and we paid it off. But we need to borrow again to finish what we're doing now. And that's why the grant money would be very much appreciated. I mentioned the front door to the tasting room being part of the project. Currently, our guests have to come in on a side door across from the kitchen, past a bunch of construction equipment and unfortunately a porta potty. And we'd like that to stop as soon as possible. A real front door would make a much nicer impression. The outdoor patio can be used year-round as an outdoor seating option. Ever since the pandemic hit, people have clamored for that. It will include an outdoor kitchen and a pizza oven. We still envision that most all of the cooking is going to be done in the inside kitchen, which has more equipment, but it'll be fun for a special party or a cooking class. And we will have tasting flights. We'll offer food pairings, and again, we'll have pizza on certain nights of the week when we can get this done. There's a picture of it, and I want it to look really different in a few months. So, yes, I think I've covered this. We've paid for about half of this patio project. We still have half of it left to pay for. And we have a line of credit available at the bank that will help us get through that. But again, the economic development grant would be really helpful. So we know that growth plans, you saw that picture. We have a lot of people that are depending on us. We have about 10 full-time equivalent employees. We have guests that have come to love us, and we really want to make our business a success and be a huge part of the agritourism business in Polk County. So how do you go backwards on this? Magic. Okay, so measuring results. There's two ways we want to do this, because we know we need to show you that if you decide to give us the grant, we've used it wisely. We've had over 2,200 guests so far this year, but the number is growing really fast. Just since we opened the tasting room, we have 435 guests a month on average. Our goal is to get to the end of the year and show 3,700 guest visits. And that would be the number we hit if our guest count continues. And harvest is a very popular time for people to visit wineries. So I think we can do that. Next year, we want to grow it 1.5 times. That would take us up to about 5,500. 2 years from now, we'd like to get to 7,400. And we can do all of this and stay well within our occupancy allowances. We've done the numbers. I think we can have 91 people at a time in the building and in the tasting room. And we can easily do this. And the space that we have created is really designed for about 60 people max to enjoy it. So we're only open by reservation, and we tightly control how many people are there. If walk-ins arrive, we'll seat them if we can. But if we can't, we say, here, take a 2-for-1 tasting card and come back next week. Make an appointment next time. So, yes, we want to, we will have to increase our hospitality staff. And we see at least 3 more full-time equivalents in the next few years. It wouldn't surprise me if it's twice that. We've already met with Willamette Workforce Partnership. They've told us about some grants that we can get. For example, we have a 17-year-old kid who graduated high school early who's working in the vineyard now under supervision from with the farmer. And he's someone eligible for one of those grants, and we've applied for it. We also have an employee, Brandon, who you saw in an earlier picture, who wants to get a wine education certificate. And we'd like to offer some sophisticated wine education classes after he's done that. And so there's skill enhancement grants that we're also looking into. And then I think Friday of this week, we're actually meeting with Annie from Polk County, who runs the high school internship program. So there are a lot of job opportunities in Polk County agriculture, especially in our industry. And we're more than happy to have young people who are interested in that work with us. So to make this happen, we have made plans. We know it's not going to be magic. We have plans to have open houses and invite the media. There's a lot of food journalists and bloggers out there that love to be invited to things like that, and then they help us spread the word. We will have parties for our wine club, probably in small numbers. We're not going to try and invite 400 people in at one time, I promise you. And we'll encourage them to bring their friends. We've already started hosting our neighboring wineries so that their serving staff can see what we've built and cross-refer to us. We're collaborating with other businesses like the Independence Hotel, Mamere Bed and Breakfast. They're carrying our wines, and when their guests want a fun place to go, they tell them about us. We have a writer lined up who wants to do a feature article about us for the Oregon Wine Press, and we're pretty hopeful that we can get a cover story, but we got to have the patio done and the pictures. And we're thinking of a lot of other fun special events and classes that we can do to bring people in. We'll also use social media, of course, and get pictures of what we're doing out there that way. So we just need to get the patio done. I'm really tired of having a construction site for about 4 years. And it will cost more money, and we would welcome your help. So I'll leave you with a pretty picture from the garden again. We would love to have you visit, and we'd love to give you a tour, let you taste our wines, meet our great employees, see what we've done in person over the last 12 years. I mentioned harvest is a great time to be visiting wineries and vineyards, and I promise you'd have a great time. So thank you for giving me this time, and I'll answer your questions. I'm sure you probably have a few.
So I have several here. You mentioned gravel roads a couple of times and leaving the paved highway. So tell us what that looks like in your view for the future. So you're way out there on kind of gravel roads.
Yes, we are.
And so what does that do to the impact of how does it impact your business and your customer feedback?
Well, the customers actually rarely complain about it. We have had a few people say they carefully choose which car they drive when they come see us. Last year for Christmas, one of the gifts I gave our employees was car wash cards to the Blue Elephant. Every time the road guys come out, I get a kick out of talking to them, and I say, when are you going to pave Smithfield Road? And they say, not in your life, lady. If that were to happen, I'd be really happy. Morris Road will never be paved unless we do it ourselves. But Smithfield would be a fantastic road to pave, and it would connect 99 and 22. It would allow people to go to Johann or Left Coast, drive over, see us, hit Van Duzer, and drive on into Dallas. So I'm a big cheerleader for paving Smithfield. But I also understand the economic realities of the county, and we don't have a huge city here that's generating lots of dollars. I'm not sure what the answer is there. I've heard, I don't know all the details, that there's going to be some improvement of the intersection there where Smithfield Road crosses the highway, because that's kind of dangerous when I come into Dallas, look 6 ways each time. But anyway, the gravel road is the gravel road, and I've just accepted it, and I've tried to embrace it as part of our authentic experience. What else can you do?
Okay, you talked about, excuse me, you talked about inspections and specific to the kitchen. So who are the inspections done by now?
Oregon Department of Agriculture. Yeah, and that's because we're a vineyard and winery. They inspect our whole site. So Judy Dowell is the inspector. She's been in our site at least twice, first in 2018, now in 2022 before we opened. And I took copious notes, and we're doing what she tells us to do. One of the things we had to do, which cost some money, but we did it, is our production space had concrete poured in 2018, and they probably didn't put enough rebar in, and we had cracks in it. And she said, Karen, you got to fill these cracks. I said, well, Judy, the problem with that is we pressure wash this floor every night after we've made wine. Sanitation is a huge part of making wine. And you just blow whatever's filling those cracks right back out again. And she said, you got to fill the cracks. So what we did is we filled the cracks, and we put a new surface. It's kind of an epoxy surface. So, and we put some sand in it that gives it a little bit more grip. It was an improvement, but it was an improvement that cost me 50 grand that wasn't in the budget this year. But we did it.
Will Andante be hosting special events such as concerts and weddings?
We do not want to be a wedding venue. There are all sorts of horror stories about bridezillas and their mothers. So we had one wedding last year for an employee. We have no weddings this year. We have one wedding coming up next year for a dear family friend. And we've told them you need to bring people here in a bus because it also just makes the site a lot less pretty to have a parking lot out there. So we do want to have small music events. We're not going to have Woodstock.
No questions? Great presentation. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I'm kind of the same boat. In between what Craig's already asked, and I pretty much covered all of it.
Well, thank you. I wanted you to understand more about us, that we're not California city slickers that just came up here and decided to try a winery. We really love this place. We really belong here. We're really trying hard to build a successful business. Our two winemakers are married to each other. Their entire household income depends on me being able to write their paycheck.
I have one more. So I guess the other thing that is always important for us to ask with this one, this is public money that we're talking about here.
Yep.
You're a private enterprise, for profit. What's the benefit to the public, to the people of using their money for your private enterprise?
Well, the people who come to Andante are going to leave tax dollars in the county or leave money in the county that our business, for example, we pay taxes on equipment is the biggest tax bill that we get. Because we're in an EFU zone, the land is taxed at a fairly lower rate. But every piece of equipment that I buy, I inventory every year. It is a big project that we do. I think the tax reports due at the end of March, I think. And you wouldn't believe how much I've been buying for this place. This year we got 2 new fermenters from Italy, and they're going to make really pretty wine, but they cost a bundle. And we've been buying kitchen equipment. Partly the improvements that we've made to our property are increasing what we pay as a business, but the people who visit us are visiting, the Independence Hotel or staying at other lodgings like Mamere. They're going to restaurants because we're not a restaurant. We give them something to snack on at lunch, but we're not doing breakfast, we're not doing dinner, and we're not doing, 5-course meals. We might do that once a month for a wine pairing dinner, but that'll be a rare occasion. And so I just think we're improving the overall attractiveness of Polk County for tourists. And then, as I said, we're also going to be employing more and more people as we grow the business. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can I also just, for 2 seconds, I think I have sort of maintained over the last few years, as I've learned and delved into agriculture, that sort of, especially in Oregon, wineries are the front door for ag for so many people. And I think many wineries do not embrace that whatsoever. And I just, and the reason I'm sitting here with moral support, if nothing else, is partially just because to highlight that and all this presentation, knowing that the neighbors, being able to speak to the other ag in the area, being able to actually understand the whole process. I think they do it as better than anyone that I know. And I think that cannot be understated when we're we're predominantly agricultural county, to have sort of a front door like that for a lot of people who come from outside of ag, if they're coming from Portland or wherever else, their average Oregonian should be proud of what we grow and the way we grow it. And sort of operations like Andante are, in my mind, sort of one of the most important pieces of that, of education for Oregonians. So,
Aaron, do you source your egg products from the area?
I source them from my own vineyard.
Right, for the wine, but for the food pairings.
We're trying to. We can use the things from our garden, I would love, for example, to use flying F beef, but it's not USDA inspected, so I can't. So we're just getting the kitchen started. We literally opened it in April. But I would very much like to make sure that we are sourcing our products from, actually, we've gotten a few baskets like from the Independence Farmers Market, things like that. So we're working that way. But to Alex's point, the survival and success of our business is by bringing in more people. 435 guests a month is great, but it's not enough to keep my doors open. I need to have more people discover us. I don't know if I said it earlier, it was in my notes. We have people come that say, you are a hidden gem. And I say, oh, I want to come out of hiding. I want people to know we're here. And as we bring more people in, our business succeeds and the whole county takes a step forward.
It's a huge part of our present and future economy, viticulture and wine, and the synergistic relationship between growers and wineries and how they pair those foods. We have to be very careful with, the ORS rules around menus and kitchens and restaurants and wineries, of course.
Well, with my law background, I am probably even more sensitive to these things.
Yeah.
I'm trying very, very hard to make sure that everything we do is by the book.
Yeah. And I think you've kind of nailed it with the competitive advantage in this region, is that authenticity. I know when I first moved here, I wasn't really a big wine drinker. And of course, I had to check out wineries. I went begrudgingly thinking that I was going to get some sort of snooty response, but that's not the vibe here. It's different than Dundee. It's unique. It has its own, kind of vibe.
It's refreshing.
Yeah.
And it's, we have visitors that go to Dundee too, but in Dundee, a lot of people are open by reservation these days. COVID kind of made that happen. And it's a good way to control your occupancy in the building. But at Dundee, they might make an appointment, spend an hour, sip a few wines, sit under a chandelier or something. And then they come to us and they can go outside, they can wander around the property. We have Adirondack chairs up at the top of our hill where you can literally see 360 degrees. And it's real. You can get out and touch things and smell things and taste things. And it's real and people crave that.
And can you remind me what your end goal date is for the patio and kitchen improvements?
It was last summer.
Last summer. Okay.
We are the classic example of supply chain problems.
Yeah.
It's been hard. And then because our building is a pole barn, we cannot use the pole barn itself to support this patio structure because of shear walls, and I'm not an architect, but the patio is a freestanding structure. It's right next to the building, but it is not dependent on it for any structural support. And there was that picture where you could see all the metal trusses. There's going to be cross-laminated timber ceiling in there and then a metal roof to match the rest of the building on top. And we've had to have all sorts of special inspections because, of course, nobody wants this thing to fall down either. And we know we're on expansive soils. We know we're in a, earthquake zone. This thing is built to last. And I've told many of my friends, if the big one hits, come to Andante because my building will still be standing. There's fish in the pond. And, we'll just have a little commune here till society comes back.
One of your opening statements got me where you said a vineyard and a grass farmer can coexist. And literally is just working together in relationships with your neighbors.
It is. One of the things I love about Larry is we both enjoy the fact that our dads and his uncle were buddies, and he'll be out harvesting and all the families out there, the whole Berger family's out there harvesting. And then Larry will sneak off and he'll come up and he'll sit on my patio and have a glass of wine with me. And my back's killing me, And then all of a sudden they start honking the horns down there and I gotta go back. So all you have to do is know when to spray and how to, adjust your nozzles so that you're not going to have volatizing crossbow hitting my vines. Because if you do it badly, you can have problems. We have never had a problem with Larry.
If there's a way you can get that flying F beef, right? ranch beef in your place, that's a win.
I eat it at home
Yes.
all the time.
So do
And-
we.
And when we're harvesting, I feed the crew. So for 2 months, I am also the cook. And they get to eat flying F beef because that doesn't count there. So if it's us or our friends or our family, we eat lots of Brent's beef. And I buy my eggs from his son Cody.
Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
No, thanks so much.
We will
Thank
be in touch.
Okay, appreciate your time today.
Is there any non-listed items for today? Hearing none, we're adjourned.